Here's some evidence that domestic made in the USA manufacturers are still growing. 16% of large manufacturers, those with at least $1 billion in revenues annually, are bringing jobs home from China. This, according to a recent survey by the Boston Consulting Group. That's a 20% jump from a year ago and more than double the 7% doing so back in February of 2012. But it hasn't always been easy to find a factory here at home. As Tyler Matheson tells us tonight, that's changing now, thanks to the folks who came up with our latest bright idea.
Matthew Burnett created watches for big-name designers and for his own line, all made in China, where large orders get priority. Shipping times are counted in months, and quality control issues can be very costly.
There's this manufacturing error, and that's in about 3,000 watches, about $35,000 worth of lost merchandise. I couldn't take it.
So he started over, making leather goods in New York City. Quality control was easier and turnaround times quicker. But finding domestic manufacturers, the people who actually make things in the USA, wasn't easy. Enter a friend, Tanya Menendez, who eventually left a job at Goldman Sachs to work with Burnett in Brooklyn.
It was shocking to see the way that people sourced. Looking at how businesses run and how inefficient it was, I was like, there's got to be an app for that. And there wasn't.
Instead, brokers sold the lists containing the names of manufacturers, often for thousands of dollars.
$5,000 to $10,000 for any small business. I'm paying $10,000 for maybe my first run of products.
To give more people access to that information, they built a website, Makers Row. 50,000 entrepreneurs have signed on, along with about 5,000 manufacturers, mostly apparel and furniture makers. The change didn't go over well with at least one broker.
He came to our office and threatened us to shut down the site because that was his livelihood.
We felt really uncomfortable, and it was also really enlightening for us to understand what was going on in the old industry prior to us coming along.
One reason manufacturers are so hard to find is that many don't have their own websites.
It is very hard to find a domestic manufacturer using Google.
Mitch Kahn's company, Unionware in Newark, New Jersey, makes baseball caps, bags, and a few other novelty items. He says he gets several calls a day from entrepreneurs who found him on Makers Row. Brooklyn bow tie and necktie maker Gina Bam nearly went out of business during the Great Recession. She's practically around the corner from Makers Row, but she wasn't on the web until she joined a few months ago.
I mean, the phone calls doubled. I picked up about 7 new customers.
And with labor costs overseas on the rise, entrepreneurs are looking for domestic manufacturers. Ari Claristenfeld, Alexa Nigro, and Andrew Kessler sell scarves with built-in carbon air filters called scoffs. They made them with their own hands until they couldn't keep up with demand. Makers Row helped them cut a 2-month search for a manufacturer down to a couple of weeks.
We actually found that it was cheaper for us to manufacture here in the U.S.
And now with bigger players like Walmart and Burberry signing on to look for U.S. manufacturers, Makers Row may be on to something.
These are the kings of industry that we're looking at here. When we saw them sign up, we knew that it was a much bigger issue that we were tackling.
That from Tyler Matheson. And to help manufacturers get on board, Makers Row has partnered with groups in cities like Newark, New Jersey, Los Angeles, Chicago, and as you saw, Brooklyn in New York. In the future, they hope to add different types of makers, by the way, beyond the textile and furniture manufacturers that are already online.